So, apparently, the white people are now realizing their mistakes and they're apologizing to the Africans. It's so interesting how this is happening. And also, Africans, ironically, are thanking the white people for the oppression they had. I don't know how to call this, but they are excited over what is happening. The oppression, they are saying it is good. They are saying oppression made them have good things. I don't know why they're saying this, but listen to this one, and then I'll give you my thoughts towards the end of the video.
The only reason that white people in the United States or anywhere we are, in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever we are the colonizers. We are the colonizers, and we live off the expense of the assault, Europe's assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the trafficking, all of these things that we hear today. This is where it came from. Hundreds of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people and Africa as a continent had and putting it into the hands of white people. And so this is why, as the chairman has said, the true class struggle, the true working class in the world is the African and colonized working class, not white people, because all white people, and you know this is true, you and I know this is true by just living our lives and seeing it. All white people sit on the pedestal, on the backs of African and indigenous people.
This is Listening to Racism, a practice where I notice my racist and white supremacist thoughts and actions so that I can stop them and so that I can change. If you are a Black person, if you are an indigenous person, or if you are a person of color who would find my discussion of my racist and white supremacist thoughts and actions disturbing, I invite you to skip this video. I was in church today and it was an absolutely beautiful service. I belong to a Black-led church that is predominantly Black membership. Not exclusively, but predominantly. We went to another Black church today for our bishop to preach. And so we were all in this beautiful sanctuary in this other church. I walked in when the choir was singing. It was an absolutely beautiful experience. And one of the things that I thought about was how welcoming everyone was. White supremacy tells me that, my whiteness is normal. And so I am, I should be able to go anywhere I want, right? And it occurred to me that given the fact that I am one of the few white people in the congregation and one of the few white people there, that the people there were showing me incredible grace and kindness and welcoming, considering that white supremacy is such a huge problem. And to see me there, I wonder, does that remind them of that? Do I remind them of that? I love gospel music, and the choir was fantastic and was singing a wonderful song, and I found myself feeling teary and crying because considering how much harm has been done by whiteness and white supremacy to Black people in particular, it is extraordinary to be so welcomed and to feel loved and cared for. Thanks for listening.
I thank God for slavery. And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree.
Like, people will try to make these mental jumps of well, if we didn't get enslaved, we wouldn't know Jesus. And it's like, That's literally white supremacy. That's literally the thing that they said. Janine Hill Fletcher talks about this in her book, The Sin of White Supremacy. It highlights how Pope Nicholas V linked West African slaving to evangelization in the 1450s. And from that point forward, bringing pagans, unbelievers, or so-called enemies of Christ to the Christian faith was popular justification of slavery.
And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree.
Something to keep in mind here too, right, is that Kimberly Daniels was appointed by Ron DeSantis as a part of the African American History Task Force for the state of Florida. The same task force that is now teaching that slavery was somehow a benefit to enslaved Africans. And then Kimberly Daniels comes out and says that she had no idea that they were teaching that slavery was a benefit to enslaved Africans and that her words were, quote, taken out of context, end quote.
Tell me that no one is actually saying that.
Like the first black woman who was a published author here in America, Phyllis Wheatley, wrote a book called Poems on Things Religious and Moral, something to that effect. But she has a poem on being brought from Africa to America. Was mercy.
Still be slaves if it was for you, baby. It's for white people. We would still be enslaved.
Really?
I believe that. We're not going to get anywhere with this conversation.
Right. I think we're kind of identifying the primary issue. It's not black-white. It's male-female. I think that's the issue that we're running into.
No, it is black and white. It's very black and white.
I think that the interrupting and the aggression and the implication that someone needs to back up when I have not taken any closer steps towards you.
I don't care, but if I feel uncomfortable, it's not.
And we've been able to have productive conversations with black men across the board, and by the way, most women, but there does seem to be a divide in interrupting, in being abrasive, in certainly being more aggressive.
That's what you think of black women.
Mom, you're making...
Whenever a woman or a black woman or asserts herself or says this is
Please
incorrect.
Don't do it. It's so tired to do that. It's so tired.
The conversation's now over. Have a wonderful day. Because the way you're treating me.
This week, video surfaced of the Jacksonville pastor saying she thanked God for slavery. She says that message is 15 years old and meant to convey that she's grateful for the ability to overcome obstacles despite history.
Slavery as it existed was cruel, inhumane, and an oppressive institution and was not a benefit to African American
ancestry. 86% European and
Give it to him. Give it to him.
14% Sub-Saharan African.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Just wait a minute. This is called statistical noise.
Sweetheart, you have a little black in you.
Listen.
Still be slaves if it was for you, baby. It's for white people. We would still be enslaved.
Really?
I believe that. We're not going to get anywhere with this conversation.
Right. I think we're kind of identifying the primary issue.
Saying mom to
it's
me.
not black-white. It's male-female. I think that's the issue that we're running into here.
No, it is black and white. It's very black and white.
I think that the interrupting and the aggression and the implication that someone needs to back up when I have not taken any closer steps towards you.
I don't care, but if I feel uncomfortable, it's not.
And we've been able to have productive conversations with black men across the board, and by the way, most women, but there does seem to be a divide in interrupting, in being abrasive, in certainly being more aggressive.
That's what you think of black women.
Mom, you're making...
Whenever a woman or a black woman or asserts herself or says this is
Please
incorrect.
Don't do it. It's so tired to do that. It's so tired.
The conversation's now over. Have a wonderful day. Because the way you're treating me.
This is Listening to Racism, a practice where I notice my racist and white supremacist thoughts and actions so that I can change them and stop them. If you are a black person, an indigenous person, or a person of color who would find my discussion about noticing my racism and white supremacy disturbing in any way, I invite you to skip this video. I had a dream a few nights ago about some kind of anxious experience that I was having, and I wanted to walk out the door of the house I was in, but when I opened the door in my dream, I saw that there were several young black men with their bicycles walking by the house. And I immediately got scared and slammed the door closed and was like, well, I can't go out there. White supremacy tells me that a group of young black men are always going to be a threat to me. racism tells me that they're only out in a group like that because they're a gang or because they are going to do something together that is nefarious in some way. What I have come to understand from listening and watching and reading is that very often Black parents will encourage their children to go out in a group because it's safer that way. There are more people and, dare I say it, more witnesses if something really bad happens. I don't like that idea of something really bad happening, because really what I'm talking about is if someone harms them, if someone tries to harm one of them. And of course, the first thing I think of are white supremacists and racists who believe that it is their job to put people of color and Black people and Indigenous people in their place. If I was in their position, I would want to go out in a group too. And I mean, lots of people go out in groups. Young women go out in groups. When they go out drinking, you don't leave anyone behind, because that is so incredibly dangerous. If you have a friend who is intoxicated, that leaves her wide open for rape or some kind of other assault or kidnapping. I mean, just really horrible things, getting dosed. Being in community and being in groups is a really good thing. So I'm here to unlearn this notion of a group of Black men being in any way dangerous. Thanks for listening.
So I personally think that the time of the truth has come. The truth has now to be exposed. The truth has to be told for what it is. It's time for the enlightenment. It's time Africans realize their worth, their importance, and their position on this face of the earth. And as I always say it, before the eyes of the Lord, everyone is equal. To see a white person confess all this, we have realized that Africans have long forgotten what happened to them, and we've now accepted them for what happened. We are apologetic. We are not holding on to anything. You know, when your enemy does the opposite of what you expect them to do, it really triggers you off balance. And I think this is what's happening to the white woman that just confessed. She's realizing that why have we been having all this enmity between us? Was it really worth it? Because personally, I don't think it was worth it. And she also thinks personally it was not worth it. And now, as Africans, when we realize that apartheid in South Africa did not work well with Africans, and also apartheid in South Africa did not work well on the white South Africans. Because even right now, as I am speaking, I'm telling you this, there is reverse apartheid in South Africa. Even right now, as I'm speaking, Africans can be racist as well. The same way you can say white people are racist. But to a larger scale, it is the white person who is a racist. The whole idea of being racist is not a good idea. It's not to be called even an idea. It's a sin. It's a sinful thing to call it that way. And personally, I think that any oppression of any kind that befalls a human being should be rebuked and should be not accepted into the cultures of Africans, into the cultures of the whole world. Because when we don't live in harmony, when we don't live with togetherness, then I'm telling you, we are bound to destruction. We are bound to nothingness. Africans, we should let go of the past. The past of what happens should go away. We should welcome the present. Come on, think of it. If the white person didn't come to Africa, we wouldn't have the roads. If the white person didn't come to Africa, now I'm speaking of the white person, not the colonizer. If the white person didn't come to Africa, we couldn't have the roads. If the white person didn't come to Africa, we wouldn't have the chemistry and the physics and the languages that we learn. We won't have the education that we have today. If the white person didn't come, we wouldn't have Christianity. Christianity wouldn't be there. Christianity is not a white man's religion, but the white man came with it. If without the coming of the white man, these roads, these buildings would not have been there. We've borrowed a lot from the white person, and we've really acquired so much from them than they might have caused us a lot of harm. I personally have not been oppressed by a white person, but I fully don't understand the extent of the abuse that was happening. But I totally sympathize with the Africans that did. But now it's time we put all those past us. Let's not accept any form of oppression to Africans. Let's not put the white person to be our enemy. The white person should stop making Africans to be their enemy. When you see an African sister, look at them as your sister. When you see a white sister, Africans, let's look at the white sister as our sister. It's just the skin color that makes us different, but we share the same blood, we share the same DNA. There's a very slight difference with all this. So it's high time Africans realize this, and the whole world realizes this message of this woman. Togetherness is the key. And in every dark cloud, there's always, and they never misses, a silver lining. The silver lining always exists. It's high time we look for that silver lining and enjoy the benefits that it has. Life might throw you lemonades. The oppressors did oppress us, but they left us something here in Africa, something that is very helpful. They brought medicine, they brought this and that. Let's enjoy the fruits. Let's enjoy the silver lining of this oppression. See one another as partners. See one another as key of the same, as branches of the same tree. And that is how humans should live, and how I believe. So, thanks for watching the video. See you in the next one. And remember to subscribe, support me on Patreon, give me some super thanks. I'll appreciate it.